Welcome back to the Fantasy Grimoire podcast. And today we have the incredible Kristen Coar. Coar. Is it Coar?
Core, like an
Coar.
apple.
Oh, okay, because I'm saying Coir like French. I don't know. I just put like a
Much
French.
more fancy than I am.
We have known each other. I actually don't even know how long we've known each other. You've just always been there.
Yeah, I think I ran into you before I launched my debut, which was, I don't know, like 2 years ago. I don't even know. Time doesn't even exist anymore. Like 10 books later, I randomly contacted you because I had no idea how to do anything. And you graciously made sure I didn't screw up too badly.
You have done phenomenally well. And I actually want to talk a little bit about your debut series, the Alex Bain series. If I look at how most debut authors start, myself included, we're kind of like, we don't know what we're doing. We're just like, let's throw it out there, see what happens. But it's almost like watching you from the sidelines. You're like, let me learn from this and get better and better each time. You're not scared of the hard work. Like, that's the vibe I'm picking up from you. I'd love to know from you what inspired the Alex Bain series? What was you thinking? Like, bring us into your process.
Like I just started writing, I would say, fiction only a couple months before I started on Alex Bain. Like I've done a lot of academic and that sort of thing. But I was talking with one of my husband's friends' wives who is traditionally published in the Regency romance genre. And I never thought, romance stuff, I could never do that. Like I get like embarrassed just thinking about it. But she made it sound so fun. And so I was like, you know what? Sure. Like I've got fantasies like any other woman. And so like in Death and Sweet Temptations, there's the scene where they share a kiss in the elevator. That was like the first thing I wrote for Alex. And I had so much fun writing it. And I got, it was so fun to like kind of get into the steam and take that out of just, a place in my head and put it on paper that I kind of structured the whole series around that one scene. And that's just why maybe, book one is maybe a little slow on the uptake or, lighter on the plot than as it develops, because it really started out as a steamy elevator scene.
I've had a character that was their entire relationship was inspired by a Taylor Swift song. So I it's like, you know that one from Reputation, Dress, where it's like in the club and like looking at each other, that steaminess. So I get what you mean about like crafting a whole book around that one moment, because we sometimes debate with as authors like, oh, are you a plotter or are you a pants? In my normal life, I'm super organized. Everything is organized to the T. But the more and more I was starting to write, the more I was like, oh, here's the one defining moment, and let's just see where we end up and fucking YOLO, like let's go with it.
Yeah. I mean, the characters, like, I don't know, like for me, I usually have the kind of the whole world already built in my head to an extent. And so it's just a matter of seeing where the characters take me in that world and in that context. So I don't really know I mean, I know where I want it to end, but I don't really know how it's going to get there until I kind of sit down with with each book.
I relate so much to what you say because you're like, this is what I want, but whether the characters allow it or
They do
not.
some crazy, crazy stuff, man. Like, seriously?
I actually have an interesting follow-up question for you because the Alex Bain series, it's 4 novels, it's now a complete series. How do you remember the entire world building as you start writing the further books? Because obviously you have to double check, hey, I'm not creating plot holes with the previous book, etc., etc. So what is your method to making sure you don't write?
Sure. I mean, I guess first off, it's not technically done. There are still two more I want to write. I mean, I want her to end up as Queen of Hell, so we've kind of got to get there. Uh,
Nice.
like
Yeah.
she escaped. She's in a good place now, and she's in a place where we probably could soft end it, but there's still a lot more that she needs to do as far as to wrap up a lot of the sort of outstanding plot points that were raised in the fourth book. But anyway, back to your original question. I've just gotten very sidetracked with lots of other stuff in the
I
world.
love it. I love it.
um, I don't know. For Alex, I don't think there was an overly complex plot. So there wasn't too much to keep track of as far as like honestly the biggest thing for me is making sure I spell all their names correctly each book, like Sarah with an H or not an H. Or just forgetting character names. Like I'm like, what did I call that guy? And then having to go back and and look him up.
Author problems.
because I don't really spend, like, I know a lot of folks spend a lot of time thinking about the names for their people. I kind of like what just pops in the head at that moment. Like, it's like some of the names are stupid and don't make any sense, and that's because I just kind of they just wrote, and I'm just like, okay, I'm done. I don't like having to think about names.
Wouldn't you say, and I mean, I'm just because Alex Bain is obviously urban like mine, but yours is more on the romantasy side than what I write. Wouldn't you almost say that it's a little bit easier to world build with urban and kind of remember what you've done because it's so similar to our real world?
For sure, the world building on the urban side is pretty easy in comparison.
Yeah.
Um, like when I got to Hell and Sweet Temptations, which is book 4, that's
Yeah.
in hell and that's a whole new world. So I definitely had to spend a lot of time kind of thinking about that. Like, what are the rules of this world? How do they apply to the lore that I've already established in the first 3? And how do they build on that lore in a way? And how do we do hell in a fresh
Yeah.
way that hasn't been done 1,000 times before?
I love that you say that because we're seeing that more and more in the readers' community with their feedback, where they're seeing the same, let's say, plots and tropes recycled over and over. And as we know, nothing is truly 100% original these days. But how do we put our own spin on it? So I love that you reference that because, as we know, hell is a common
It's an established set
lore.
of lore. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting because I was chatting to another author recently where I thought I had found a piece of lore in something that hadn't been done recently. Like it's been done, but not in our world. And then she brought it up. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Here, I thought I was being a special little snowflake. Alex Bain is not your only series. You have your fingers in multiple series. And I want to speak a little bit about Ink, Blood, and Other Afflictions because what stood out to this one for me was that you've gone with an episode format. Can you explain that to us a little bit, please?
It wasn't like I set out and said, this is what I'm going to do. It kind of just became that. So I got asked by a group of authors last year to do like a Halloween novella collection, and it sounded like fun. And so we all kind of got into it, set the parameters for what we wanted to write. And at the same time, my agent had mentioned that Spotify was looking for shorter content, 20,000 words or less. So I decided to kind of just, well, I'm writing this novella anyway. I might as well try to target it for a Spotify submission. And I kind of like, I've got the Alex Bain series. I've got The Serpent and the Silver Wolf. I also have Love in the Veil, which is out on submission with my agent too. And these are all like sort of big world, big series, that the jumping off points. And so with this novella, I was just kind of like having fun with it and wrote it a little bit as a joke. I was like, well, wouldn't it be fun if she gets off by killing people and he gets off by being killed? And then I had to figure out the lore to how all that works. But yeah, I wrote it kind of as a joke. The reaction has been startling to that it's a dark concept. I didn't think it would be a lot of people's cup of tea, but it's really sort of taken off and the appetite for it. So like once like I kind of got my agent's reaction to it and my beta reader's reaction to it, I was like, well, crap, I guess I should do some more. Why not try to do it rapid release? Because I really liked the idea after doing the Alex Bain series, and they were pretty rapidly released. I mean, it was one every couple of months, but I still felt like I was losing so much momentum with each book and losing that read through with each book. And, part of that is because the first book is so-so, but I wanted to be able to drop all 4. And so, create that bingeability effect, I guess. And it's going well so far. The book's got over 200 reviews, and I've got about a month now until release. And people seem to be very hungry for it. So I've got, I think it's got a lot of potential.
2 things you said there that I just want to touch on. Will there be 4 episodes in total for Ink, Blood, and Other Afflictions?
For season 1.
So explain to me how that works, because I'm thinking of books, even though I understand the TV series concept. So talk us through your vision there. Like, what are you seeing based
So
on?
it's really kind of like, I mean, the easiest way to explain it is, like a Netflix short series. So each one is written as an episode. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end,
Yeah.
but it contributes to the larger story of the season with the antagonist that flows through each of the novellas, building up to one sort of season closure while also opening the door at the end of, episode 4 to what's coming in season 2. And so I'll do another 4 probably this time next year too.
I'm going to make a prediction now. I think by next year, this time, we will see other authors doing this as well.
That's one of the things I really love about the bookish business and the bookish community. I feel like so much of how books are done has been what everybody's been doing for the last 100 years, especially when you look at trad and kind of how you do things, how you bring a book to market. It's like the same every time. I mean, we still even publish usually on the same day on Tuesdays. Like, I don't know why I'm publishing on a Monday.
Yeah.
um, and and so that's what I think is really cool, especially in the indie space, not just the content that we're writing, which is not typically trad material or different, but also how we're bringing books to market and the innovation that indie authors are bringing to this business every day and how quickly things change,
Yeah.
I think is super cool.
I fully agree with you, and we'll touch on it a little bit. But for me, I write mostly for the creative outlet. Okay, like
Mm-hmm.
I get that trad or hybrid is appealing to some people, and that's great for you. I'm not knocking you. For me, the moment someone tells me what I can and can't write,
Yep.
that then I'm done. Then I hang up my hat and I find my next kind of expensive hobby. But I want to touch on something,
Very expensive hobby.
right? I really want an audiobook, like to create my own audiobook. I just haven't had the right series for it. And there's something coming up which I'm like, okay, this feels like the right series to dip my toes into the audiobook space. And I got my first quote and I was like, so am I going to become a lady in the red light district now? Like to pay for this?
Feet pics.
Yeah,
That's what my author group says we'll do when we need more character art is sell feet pics.
all used underwear. I hear that's a thing. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, I'm just
I'll
saying
have
we
to
have
pass that
options.
along.
We have options. But something interesting that you said here, which I know a lot of authors struggle with. So let's say we write a trilogy. Okay, let's go with the trilogy concept here. By the time we need to do an arc campaign for book 3 in the trilogy, we've actually seen the launch of the series to the third book in the series go on this rapid decline because sure, we have some diehard readers that hang around and we love them for that because we would be truly fucked without them. But as you're saying, to get those readers to convert all the way from book 1 and actually follow the series is almost, it feels like I'm begging for a kidney. It's weird because you look at the feedback from the review, they love the series, they want to continue reading the series, but then they don't. And I'm like, am I the problem here? Like, what am I missing? It is such a struggle for authors, which is why I also suspect we're starting to see a lot more standalones. So, or duologies being released in rapid succession because it's that less frustrating part of where we need to raise these massive arc campaigns or pre-order campaigns or whatever for a further book in the series. Like another author, it's now book 4 in her series. I think it's the final one, and her series has done really well. It has an established readership and she's got a huge following. I think something like 10,000 followers. She could barely get 50 people to sign up for ARCs in the final book in the series. And I'm like, her series has done phenomenally well. She could probably go try it if she wants to because that's how well she's done. I get it. Everyone's busy. Everyone has commitments. Like life happens. But I'm just like, if we're going to create more art, because that's really what it is, we're creating art, we need the commitment to continue creating art. It's like a circle. That was just, I felt,
Yeah.
I'm feeling that, especially with this release.
No, I feel it too. Like I haven't felt particularly inspired to write book 5 and 6 of Alex. She's got an audio deal, by the way, with Pink Flamingo, a British audio company. It's with their fantasy imprint. So they're doing books because I already have book 1 out on audio, which I kind of did as a royalty share deal on it, which
Yeah.
you can do if you don't want to pay $5,000 up front.
Yeah.
And then they're going to do 2, 3, and 4.
We are seeing a lot of indies, they come onto the scene. Let's say they release a few books and then they get agents and then they either go completely traditional or they go hybrid. So my favorite 2 examples there is Karina Hale. I almost want to say she's like the OG for that because she's been doing it for like 12 years. And then my favorite recent example is Pen Cole, the Curse of the Kindred saga. And she has been really, I almost want to say pivotal, because if I remember correctly, she kept her ebook rights, but she sold her print book rights to the Trad House, which, yeah, it's a really smart business model. I'm starting to see a lot of, I almost want to say, noticeable indies follow that route. I know Alexis Almenard, she just announced her House of Bane and Blood series has also gone Trad. I don't know the publisher, but like I know there's also a Trad thing there. I know you have an agent, you've referenced your agent. I have a two-part question. The first one is, if an indie is listening and they're like, hey, I want to go get an agent, is it something you would recommend? Like, what are the pros and the cons? What did that process look like for you?
I think it's kind of what you want to get out of your career. So instead of necessarily thinking about what you want to get out of an individual book, but what do you want to get out of your author career? For me, I would like to have a hybrid route where there are books that I have complete ownership over, like Ink Blood and Other Afflictions. I didn't even sub it at all and just we're taking it straight to market, except for the audio. There's a lot of, fun to be had in the non-traditional deals that agents can negotiate on your behalf, whether it's audio deals or international rights. We see that a lot with indie authors who basically will get contacted by foreign publishers and then get an agent through that to help them negotiate the deal. But yeah, for me, I kind of wrote The Serpent and the Silver Wolf after Alex Bain book 3 because I just needed a creative break from that. I thought it was pretty cool and decided to sub it out and ended up finding an agent who is also an author. It's with Beck Literary, and she actually just got her first traditional deal. I think they just announced it like yesterday, so I'm super excited for her. She understands what the indie space looks like. She understands what the trad space looks like. And with everything that I write, we kind of come up with a strategy for how we want to bring it to market, whether or not we want to put it out on submission, just put pieces of it out on submission. She's really willing to work with me on timelines. So if we do put something out on submission, I'm not willing to wait a year or two to let it just sit there. So we kind of agree on when we pull. And I just, like, we did that with The Serpent and the Silver Wolf. It was out on submission, I think, for like 6 months, and I got impatient. And because that, like, the agents can also look at indie publishers too, but I figure at this point I've already know the indie route. I don't get a super ton out of going with an indie publisher unless they're willing to commit a large marketing budget, which some of them are. But I like the self-pub process myself anyway. I like having control over covers and things like that. But I've got one out now that I think would be really, really cool to take to market through a more traditional route. It's sort of like if you think about Sex in the City meets ACOTAR meets Killing Eve in a dark romantasy context.
Sign me up. That's all I have to say.
I like turning tropes a little bit on their heads. So fated mates with a bit of rejection in there, and then a little bit of, murdery revenge, because most of my books have some murdery revenge going on in them.
You were talking about with Ink Blood and Other Afflictions, how you were surprised at how well that did, especially because of the darker nature. If there is anything I have learned from Bookstagram this year, is that we're all a bunch of fucking horny teenagers, and it just takes like one little spark and we're like, he can have my soul, or she, if that's your thing, and he can father my children. I mean, I posted a piece of character art this week. It's still not even my best piece of character art, might I add. And I look at some of the comments and I'm like, ladies, calm yourselves, please.
At least I'm going feral over a piece of art instead of like a random dude on TikTok. With Ink Blood and Other Afflictions, it's only 80 pages. The range of how people respond to the smut in Ink Blood, and there's 1.5 explicit scenes in Ink Blood and Other Afflictions. And yes, they are fairly explicit. And yes, there's like stabbing and dying and things like that. I'll have one reader post, it was all smut. Like every single page was smut. And I'm like, well, I mean, no. And then another reader is like, I really thought there'd be more smut. And I'm like, okay.
I we
I've
take
gotten,
reviews.
0. I've gotten, or sorry, 1 chili pepper to 5 chili peppers from authors, or not authors, readers posting their reviews, and I'm like, I don't know, that's cool. It just shows. I don't know. I feel like it shows that I've got a super broad
Diverse.
range of folks who are reading and enjoying the books. Like even my mom, she was like, "This is some weird shit. I cannot recommend it to my girlfriends." Well, maybe like one of my girlfriends.
Yeah.
But I'm finding myself cheering on the serial killer, and I'm like, okay, well,
What a bonding moment. I fucking love that. When my editor had to give me critique on the one sex scene, I'm like, how strange is our lives where I'm literally discussing sex feedback with another female, even though we're both straight and we're both super mature. She's like, oh, move his leg here, move her mouth here. How do you explain this to someone, Kristen?
it's a
Are
different
you
world,
okay,
that's
quiet?
for sure. That people just they don't- like until you're like neck deep in it, you don't really get it. I don't think.
I ask every guest this question. What is your bookish hot take?
I don't know. I guess just because it kind of popped up the other day is folks, like you were talking about earlier, how people are starting to get inundated with the same tropes, how 1,000 shadow daddies, etc. And you see all the complaints about it all over Bookstagram and or threads, and they're like, I just wish there was more out there with less of the romance and more of the world building and plot and adventure. And I'm like, it's called fantasy. Get off the book talk. Go to a Barnes and Noble. There's so much great fantasy out there.
I reference Elle a lot on the podcast because I'm a huge fan of what she's done with the Glasswing series. Sure, it's an urban fantasy. There are romance subplots in that series, but I'm just like, if we look at the creativity that she has displayed in that series, guys, it literally has every single fucking thing you could ask for. Go binge the series because it's out. But then, like, don't moan that there isn't enough romance. Then go read a romantasy. There's tons out for you to pick. Go read Fourth Wing or something like that. On that note, though, we are starting to see a bit of a disturbing trend with reviews. I know with authors, we tend to not read our reviews if we
I
can
read my
avoid it.
reviews.
Well, I'm starting to do it less and less for, and it touches on something that you said, where one reader will be like, oh my God, amazing world building, loved it, da da da. Next reader, shit world building. And I'm like, huh? So for me, it's more, and why I've started like pulling back a little bit from the reviews is because it's the conflicting information screws with my head. If we look at the bigger names like Rebecca Yaros, all the big ones, we're seeing that review bombing is becoming more and more popular before their books have even had a proper release date announced. I almost want to like just ask your thoughts on that. Like, why do you think that is? What do you think of this disturbing phenomenon that we're seeing? Like, how would you handle it if something like this happened to you?
I have had it happen to me to an extent a little bit. Obviously, not nearly at that scale, but I was posting in a Facebook group recommending Death and Sweet Temptations, and this was like a year ago probably. Somebody came after me saying the book was AI art. And I'm like, well, damn, I hope not. I've certainly paid a lot of money for it. It's a professional designer. And I kind of just left it. And then the commenter continued to comment like on how horrible I was as a person for for this. And I just kind of ignored it. And then next thing I go look at my Goodreads, and there's like 5 or 6, which is again not a ton, but like 1 and 2 star reviews with no, or sorry, ratings with no reviews for all of my books, including the ones that aren't published yet or available anywhere. And I'm like, gosh darn it. But, there's not really much you can do. I think
Yeah.
at the end of the day, we've got to give readers credit. They can see that, and they like your book. Great. I also think a lot of readers, maybe off of Book Talk, don't even look at reviews. They'll look at the blurb and the cover, and if that sells the book, they'll give it a try. And then if it's good, they'll read another one.
I agree with you on that. I'm going to reference Emily McIntyre now. I realize she is not a fantasy author.
I love her stuff.
I kind of wish she was though, because with her feisty personality, I think she'd write a great fantasy.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
Now, I typically am a hardcore fantasy reader. I mean, hell, look at the name of my podcast. But she got onto my feed and I was like, okay, I'm going to read her romance books. And it was because of her personality that got me like to start reading her Hooked series. It was Hooked and Scarred and, you know,
Yeah,
the
yeah. No, I've read them.
and I'm just like, I will keep supporting Emily McIntyre. Listen, her reviews aren't great. Like, I have to be honest. But I'm like, I don't give a shit about her reviews because I fucking love her and I love her books. And that's actually all I care about.
And at the end of the day, she's making bank. Enough people like her books. A couple folks trying to spread negativity or trolls. I mean, I think we're just seeing that, as book talk and bookstagram gets bigger out in the world, we're going to see more of the disturbing internet behavior that we see everywhere else too.
I think that's an important point because I know the pen name discussion has been coming up more and more as we evolve in the bookstagram space. I know I'm relieved that I went with a pen name, just purely because of my job. I know you didn't. You didn't. And you're okay with that? No plans to change to a pen name?
No, it's funny because my job did have a bit of a problem with it. um, the specific feedback I got was that, Kristen, there's no handbook for what to do when a senior executive at a company starts writing smutty books. But then my boss was like, "But I'm so proud of you. It's really good." I love my job.
Because that could have gone the other way, and that's why I was like, "Oh, sweet Jesus, what the hell just happened?"
No,
Okay,
it's like I would, there are companies where I probably would have considered a pen name, but where I work, they're very reasonable. They very much value taking care of their employees. So I didn't think it was going to be a problem, and it wasn't. We got through the debut, and now we're many books later.
pick one fantasy book that you believe deserves way more love than it's been getting on Bookstagram.
I would probably pick almost any like traditional fantasy versus the romantic fantasies. That's just usually my preference for reading. Um, and gosh, I honestly haven't been able to read as much as I'd like to these days, which sucks. But there's so much to write. I don't know. Like, when we talk about what is epic fantasy and when we talk about big world building like Crescent City, I don't know. Like, I love the Garden of the Gods, the Malazan Empire series. It definitely has a fan following and people like it. But for me, it's kind of like the the best. Like, there's no world bigger than it. I kind of wrote The Serpent and the Silver Wolf with this in mind. I was like, it's okay. You don't even know what the heck is going on in that book until you're on like your third read through. Like, you've got to be comfortable with ambiguity. You've got to be comfortable with figuring things out along the way. But I don't know, it's so much fun. Like, there's just so much there. The characters, they've got so much depth, like all of them. I mean, they all like die. It is the Malazan Empire of the Fallen, but it's so good. I love it. I feel like the author does such a really good, authors, I guess, does such a really good job bringing in like a diverse cast of characters because it spans the whole world. It spans millennia. So they bring in so many different cultures, pulled from so many different lore backgrounds. You've got your curvy characters, your thin, like it just is like I feel like it takes a refreshing viewpoint on relationships in books too. Like, they're in there, like they're real, because relationships are a big part of any experience, but they're not the driving force. They definitely have an impact for sure, but it's not all about the relationship. But like in a lot of fantasy, they hide the relationship. They don't show that as much because you're so focused on the adventure and what's happening, even though it's there in the background, like Lord of the Rings. Like, there's things going on, but it's just not really touched on except in like really vague metaphor every once in a while.
I haven't heard of this series before, so I'm definitely going to go look it up after this because I'm just watching how you light up describe this. Yeah, that sold me. I have to ask, I say recently, for me this whole year has been a blur for obvious reasons. You've recently had your second little one, who is adorable. Like, I actually cannot like deal with how cute he is.
Thank you.
How do you balance it all? Because as you mentioned, you're an exec, high powered job. You're smashing out books left, right, and center. You're a mom, you're a wife, You need to have a life somewhere in between. Like, do you sleep?
Occasionally, but I mean, really, I don't really have any free time. I really think about like, what the hell did you spend your time on before you started doing this author stuff? Like, were you just wasting your time watching TV or wasting your time like I worked out a lot, so I don't work out as much anymore. But like literally almost every minute of my day is value add where I'm either momming, I'm wifing, housing, taking care of the babies, taking care of the job, or doing something author related, like multitasking like a maniac. Lots of 5-hour energy shots. Now that I can have them again, that I'm not pregnant.
It's so true what you say though, because obviously I'm not working right now, but I was doing this as well when I was working. And for me, it really is. If there's a free moment, is it something I can do to further something along? Even if it's, I need to write my monthly email. Okay, that is something that progresses. Oh, yeah, why do you think I only do it once a month? Because I'm also like, oh, is this funny enough? Is this relatable enough? Is this engaging? Like, I was like, fuck that. I'm so over it. But yes, I agree with you because, for example, I'll take a day where I want to work on social media. These are things that progress my author brand or my podcast brand or da 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 da. It's about being strategic with your time.
Have like I commute into work on the days I go into the office, and that's like an hour each way just sitting on the train. So that's kind of my writing time for the most part, because what else am I going to do? I'll get bored.
But I do want to talk a little bit about Love in the Veil. You mentioned it earlier, because I went sneaking around your website and I was like, what's this? She hasn't been talking about that one. So you kind of mentioned earlier that this one is out on submission.
Mm-hmm.
What can you tell us about the series? Because I know usually when something's on submission, you have to be pretty secretive.
I don't know. I mean, so long as I'm not like handing it out to folks, I think it's
Yeah.
fine. It's basically and by the way, like all of these series are all interconnected in the same universe as well. Um
That's so cool. I love that. I love that.
you know Argo from Death and Sweet
Yes.
Temptations. He's from a place called the Vale originally before he went to hell. Um and So yeah, this is kind of the story of and Finn is Fae. He's in Death and Dark Obsessions, the second book. So it kind of pulls more from the fairy side of the lore, and it's basically when the veil gets destroyed over in Wales or whatever, they evacuate to basically where the Twilight vampires are. Um, and So basically, you've kind of almost got this post-apocalyptic Fae city, but they've rebuilt all of the Fae. They live for fucking ever, so they still have all the trauma of the war, even though they've completely rebuilt this new city, and it's like 400 years later. But anyway, it follows the story of four lady friends who are each very different parts of the Vale society, and each book will follow their love story. But they're pretty fucked up in the head and in general. So Emmeline her story is first. She's a clerk in a lord's castle, very low on the magic totem pole. Not one of the high class. So she's very much viewed as less. Like it's also a very caste-based society. So she's not one of the important people. But she is convinced that the Lord's son is her fated mate.
Wow.
Against all odds. She's just obsessed from day one, even though there's not been fated mates since the original city fell. And so she starts stalking him, pursuing him, sneaking after him. And she accidentally, on one of these escapades, this is like the first chapter, this is how it opens, kills his date on accident. Like she wants to embarrass the woman, but she ends up tripping the woman and she falls into a statue and dies.
How inconvenient.
I know. And so that's and the Lord doesn't even know her because he's a horrible, self-involved rapist. He's just a terrible guy, but she's so delusional. And all of her friends are like, "What are you doing? You just killed a lady of the courts." And dude is not your mate. And then, it turns out that her actual mate is the Lord's valet. And I think this is all pretty like obvious throughout it. But anyway, so he's like the mate who recognizes it is watching all of this shenanigans unfold, watching his mate obsess over another man and just kind of trying to like convince her that the other guy is not good, and we've got the one horse trope because the Lord's evil mother sends her out into the forest. We've got some spanking. We've got rejected mates. There is, trigger warning. There is on-page sexual assault in the book, but then all four of the besties team up to come up with the most horrendous murder I could imagine to get him back. So we've got a bit of a heist as well, or murder heist at the end of the book.
I'm almost like, what can I bribe you with to take it off submission and release it normal? We need the stories like this. Almost as you were saying earlier in the episode, the ones where we're brave enough to try new things and, push that envelope. And just from what you've described to us here, I feel like you've taken well-known concepts, but you've just, like you've said, flipped it on its head and put such a unique spin on it. And I know I am itching to read it.
I think it's really funny, very much a bit of a dark rom-com, even with the very dark elements, and you really see what these friends are to each other. Like, it's, yes, there is a love story there, yes, there is that with her actual fated mate, but it's more about the friendships, and there are giant corgis as well.
Without trying to be cheesy or anything, love is not just the romantic kind. The love, I think, that comes with a female friendship and the way that we're always trying to lift each other up. I don't know. I think there's something beautiful there, something that it's very hard to beat.
Absolutely. Having a tribe, I think, is, one of the most impactful things somebody can do for themselves. It's not always easy if you don't grow up with them and build it as kids. It's hard building those relationships as adults. It takes a lot of work and I think a lot of courage as well, but it's worth it.
Before we start wrapping up, I have to ask you, because we've spoken about so many things that you're involved in. What can we expect to see next from you?
Well, we know Ink Blood and Other Afflictions is coming September 8th. I'm dropping the full trilogy of The Serpent and the Silver Wolf, November through December this year as well. Like, I wrote The Serpent and the Silver Wolf last year, and the kind of center book is kind of almost like a Assassin's Blade prequel meant to be read later. And so now I'm trying to write the third book right now. And so that's coming. That is, it's, we talk about hard to describe. I don't know if you're familiar with anime and with Naruto.
A little bit.
It very much pulls from that universe to an extent, but also pulls in a much larger, broader universe. Dark fantasy, why choose? Ninjas, reincarnation, monsters. There's a lot going in there. Instead of a dual POV, it's a dual alternating timeline. So you kind of fought, like, she's got multiple lives, lived in the past, had a love back then, got ripped away to a different world. Because Amy's sort of like Quantum Leap, but fantasy, multiple worlds version. She gets pulled and placed into different worlds to help them avoid disaster. So she gets pulled away. Love of 50 years ago kind of turns into a monster when she leaves. Starts eating, experimenting on people, that sort of thing. Morally black. And she comes back again 50 years later, has no memory of any of this, falls in love with MMC2, who is her squad leader. And then, in the future, or in the present, all of it kind of collides. So we follow the story of her falling in love with her squad leader at the same time as she's reuniting with the monster, and how all of that evolves. And now I'm writing the backstory for when she falls in love with the monster.
I just have to say, your brain is a fascinating place.
I feel like it's a bit all over the place.
You know what? It always works out. But you just brought up something interesting. I personally would never, and the way I feel right now, I don't know how I'll feel in the future, but I know a lot of authors tend to go into the multi-genre route, specifically fantasy, usually romantasy, and then just romance. normal romance. Is that something you see yourself doing?
Maybe toss out a contemporary at one point or the other. I've had different ideas for that. I actually just I was doing a walking tour of Chicago the other day, and it was exploring the gangster history of Chicago. And one of the big gangsters from back in the 20s, he, in order to kind of calm down after a night of like killing people, he ran a florist shop. So I was like, if that isn't a contemporary romance in my genre or in my wheelhouse, I don't know what is. So that might be coming. But no, I think, next up, what I really want to work on is I want to do a sort of overlap of the Genu character from K-pop Demon Hunters, because I love him, and Lestat, in sort of a dream world where the FMC lands in the dream world and she ends up in a bar. And, if you don't pay your tab when you leave, you kind of get turned into a sex slave of the dream world to pay off your debt. You're kind of like an indentured sex servant. And they send you to all the biggest monsters of the world.
I don't see myself leaving fantasy anytime soon. I think for me, I'm so happy in the fantasy space specifically. Sure, I might branch out to other areas later, but like right now, that's what just makes me so happy. But then I'm reading this Lights Out. It's taken me a while, but I was like, fuck it, there's no time like the present. This Lights Out by Navessa Allen, and I'm like, it's pretty good. Like I see why people were going wild about it now. Is it the most outstanding plot I've ever read in my life? No, but it's a good time. And I only read for a good time. I'm not reading for grammatical prose or to learn something. If I want to learn something, I can go back to school. Kristen, if someone is listening to you, they love your vibe and they want to support you or connect with you, what is the best way to do that?
Instagram's the easiest.
I'll pop your details in the episode description. And guys, she has a huge backlist to pick from. Go scroll through it, support her. You're going to love her work. Kristen, thank you so much for joining today. It's been an absolute blast talking to you.
Oh, same. Thank you, Stephanie, for having me. Definitely more fun than a work meeting.